Hello everyone, I'm Eternal Flame here, and y'all already know what time it is. Y'all already know it's time to talk about Yuji Itadori. So in this vid, I want to talk about how after Kashimo is done with his battle against Sukuna, why Yuji likely will have the best, and if I'm being honest, only chance at actually putting Sukuna down, how he's been set up to do it, and more than likely, how his curse technique is going to awaken either in or before the battle against Sukuna. However, before we even get into this vid, be sure to like and subscribe to like anime content like this. I've got plenty more on the way. And let's get straight into the video. Now, there are two reasons why I think Yuji has the best chance against Sukuna, and those two reasons are time and especially motivation to learn at this current rate, especially thanks to everything he has been watching. Because I believe there's a very important reason that Sukuna never once showed off his curse technique. And while, yes, Hikari is right, he was saving his ace in the hole in case the students did jump him, I think there's a much deeper reason that goes into why Sukuna never once showed off his curse technique. And that reason is because it would allow Yuji to learn how to use Sukuna's curse technique. And the reason that I think it's all possible is leading back to one other character. One other character who we know is in a very similar state to Sukuna and Yuji, but in one different way, being they have a symbiotic relationship with their vessel. That character being Hana Karusu, as well as the Angel, where we know through them that it is possible instead to have a symbiotic relationship where you share cursed energy, as well as are able to use the person's technique of the cursed vessel item thingy bobber that you are having inside of your body. That's why Hana is able to use Jacob's ladder. However, Yuji and Sukuna had a non-symbiotic relationship, where instead their souls were just constantly clashing with each other instead of melding with each other, which basically forced some of Yuji's cursed energy all the time to have to suppress Sukuna's soul inside of him. Which is also where I think Yuji's power-up in chapter 214 came from. I don't think it was just purely a rage amp, because we have seen Yuji get rage amps before and it was nowhere near as massive, and it also immediately happened as soon as Sukuna left his body. So I do think it was also partly just now that Sukuna left his body, their non-symbiotic relationship was over, and Yuji could have his full access to his cursed energy, but more importantly, he has access to something else now. As Yuji said earlier on, he is soaked completely in Sukuna's cursed energy now that Sukuna has left him, which basically means he has access to Sukuna's cursed energy and it is melded with him, but there is no soul to it. It is now his cursed energy entirely. Which means, in theory, he should have the potential way to access Sukuna's cursed technique in the process and be able to use it through Sukuna's cursed energy. He just isn't aware of what it is, and he hasn't seen it yet, so he wouldn't be able to actually experience it to know. And while I don't think Yuji, even right now, with the post 1 month of time skip training and having all the time to train with everyone else, is strong enough to fight against Sukuna even after against the battle with Gojo, I do think after the battle with Kashimo, assuming he has everyone else to back him up, Yuji would be a massive threat if he had access to Sukuna's curse technique against Sukuna, on top of the fact that Yuji should be super resistant against Sukuna's curse technique type of attacks. And while Sukuna should also be resistant against Yuji using Sukuna's own curse technique on him, I don't think in the state Sukuna will be in, it will be best for him to even want to take those attacks, and I think Sukuna knows that. Now, do I have a clue what Sukuna's curse technique is? No. If I'm being honest with you, no. I do not have a clue what Sukuna's true curse technique is, but for very good reason, he has made sure to not use it to make sure everyone doesn't know what it is, because he doesn't want to give away that information, and it is very clear up to this point that he is trying to do everything in his power not to reveal that information. For example, Gojo directly called this out, that Sukuna was holding something back, and it was in clear reference to his curse technique, because Sukuna still has yet to use his curse technique, and I think this is the reason why. Not because of him being afraid of getting jumped, but because he doesn't want to deal with another him in his current less energy-filled state that he knew he would be in after his battle against Gojo. Stack that with him clearly already being aware of Hikari, Maki, and Yuta's existence thanks to him being warned about them as threats, and while I don't think he was aware that Kashimo was on their side, because I genuinely don't think Kenjaku was aware of it, he was clearly aware of who Kashimo was due to the entire line of "don't disappoint me." he clearly has some expectations, or at least in my opinion, I interpret it as him having expectations. I might be wrong in my interpretation, but who knows? But him having to deal with all of that on top of a Yuji who's already relative to Maki at this point, assuming he hasn't gotten any stronger at all after the 1 month time skip, which we all know all of the characters got stronger after the 1 month time skip. I want to make an entire video on that. All of the characters are much stronger in comparison to their calling game selves, because a 1 month time skip has passed up to this point, but I'm going to explain my reason why on that video alone. But they wouldn't want to deal with Yuji, who is also capable of using Sukuna's curse technique on top of the entire gauntlet of people they are going to have to fight. It was also set up from a very, very long ago point by Gojo himself that Yuji would awaken Sukuna's curse technique a while back, when Yuji was actually starting to get trained, and what better time than now when he has access to Sukuna's cursed energy without having to deal with Sukuna being a cursed energy hog, because he's just like, I don't like this kid, and now he doesn't have to deal with Sukuna being there. It's just him with Sukuna's cursed energy. Furthermore, Yuji is likely going to be rage amped on top of this because he just watched Gojo die. So imagine all of the feelings, the negative emotions that are dwelling up right now and making Yuji even stronger and even more ready in order to fight against Ryoma and Sukuna. Most of all, I just think that this is the reason why Sukuna has not used his curse technique. He doesn't want to deal with a second him. And I don't think they gave Yuji access to Sukuna's cursed energy and said that he basically is soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy for no reason. Gege doesn't include things for no absolute random reason. We should all know this by this point, and I think this is the reason why. Because Yuji is still being set up to get Sukuna's curse technique, just Sukuna will no longer be inside of him, and Yuji is going to have to learn how to use it, literally through watching Sukuna likely use it against Kashimo after their entire battle, after Kashimo gets massively binding vow amped in the process. Leading to the most amazing epic 4v1 of the century, of Yuta, Hikari, Maki, and Yuji all fighting against Sukuna. Actually, I can even see this being a 5v1 because I don't see Choso stepping out of this fight. Also, I'm just saying if they were smart, they'd immediately send Higuruma right after Kashimo goes down and then teleport Higuruma away. Why? Sukuna doesn't have a domain expansion, and just immediately domain, trial, get rid of Sukuna's curse technique, and then everyone else jump him. Anyways, that's beside the point. This could also be the part of the battle where Yuji is able to do other power-ups he has been set up for. The main one that I can think of is just the mastery of Black Flash in the process, like mimicking one of Gojo's applications of blue, because like I saw one of the comments point this out on how Gojo's application of blue might be able to help Yuji master the Black Flash, and I don't know how I feel about that. But if Yuji were to like make a mimic of blue in honor of Gojo, I could see that, and just like him doing this on the fly. But yeah, this is just what I see being the most likely thing to come about in the future. That while Kashimo and Sukuna are battling, Yuji ends up watching and figures out how to use Sukuna's curse technique for himself, having to learn it on the fly, because Yuji learns best when in the middle of combat. Let me remind you all, as soon as he got the Black Flash explained to him once, he was able to use it 4 times consecutively after. But more importantly, Yuji learns incredibly well in battle, and I think he is going to just go from not knowing how to use Sukuna's curse technique at all to being able to use it well enough to actually be a threat against Sukuna with his own curse technique. After all, take a look at Yuji versus Hanami, for example, to see Yuji's explosive growth. And now apply that to an even more angry and even more motivated Yuji who has just recently lost Gojo, his mentor, someone he cares a lot about. However, while I do think a 4v1 could be cool, there are reasons why that might not go well, and that all depends on Sukuna and his curse technique. Because there is one issue of Sukuna doing a 4v1 against them and why it wouldn't go well. Because Yuta, Maki, and Hikari do not have the advantage that Yuji does, being Yuji is soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, which should make a lot of Sukuna's attacks less effective on him, in comparison to everyone else who are just normal people without a Megami to help suppress them. So Yuji, who should be super resistant against Sukuna's curse techniques, might actually have to go 1v1 against Sukuna right after, or just have everyone else playing in the background as support, because of how much more powerful Sukuna's attacks actually should be. Depending all, of course, on how much Kashimo damages him. For all I know, Kashimo might damage him so much they can actually do a 4v1 and Sukuna's attacks aren't that much of an issue. Who knows? There's also another entire issue that's on the board, a brain issue that we haven't been talking too much about, but I feel we probably should talk about and leave Yuta, Maki, and Akari to deal with that and leave them prepared for that. So, yeah. I do think Yuji is just being more and more set up with each chapter to be able to fight Sukuna more and more. Because this is what makes the most sense, at least to me, for why Sukuna has been hiding his curse technique for so long. Because I don't think just the knowledge of what Sukuna's curse technique is actually going to help the group that much, because I don't think they can plan that fast around to actually captivate on when Sukuna would be weakened after his battle against Gojo, like what Hikari was speculating. After all, what good is knowledge if you still get one shot all the same, and you can't actually build a plan around it unless you want to risk Sukuna recovering to full energy, and at that point you're back to the problem of square one, of while you know Sukuna's curse technique and abilities, you don't know how to counter it. But if it was cause Sukuna didn't want to deal with basically a second him stacked on top of everybody else, especially because there's also other things Sukuna clearly knows about Yuji that he hasn't shared yet, with the entire line of, oh right, this brat is from back then, something that I've already made a theory on, then yeah, there is a lot that is just being set up for the Yuji-Sukuna final encounter, and there are just more and more reasons coming in of how Yuji is going to be able to live and survive. For example, Gojo introducing the entire concept of your own techniques being much less effective on you, and by extension, Yuji having Sukuna's cursed energy, which I don't think is for no reason. I think that's going to have more and more reason the more and more we learn about Sukuna and Sukuna's full kit and arsenal. However, that's just my thought and theory. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts and theories are in the comment section below. I'm going to see you all later. Peace out, everybody.